Nerderotic.com.
I'm starting to think we need to get a restraining order for the Access Media because they can't stop talking about YouTubers. We are living rent-free in their head, and the square footage is quite nice. But another Access Media article protecting Brie Larson and Captain Marvel, and they're trying to get out ahead of a story. It's a week out from Comic-Con, a week out from the MCU Hall H panel, where I believe Kevin Feige is going to announce Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I think within this panel, we will get a definitive answer on whether or not the MCU is going to go full-on woke or just do it in particular films. Now, I think the answer will come when we hear if Brie Larson's Captain Marvel will indeed take center stage in the MCU. If that happens, goodbye, MCU. Intersectional feminism, here we come. Now, of course, the activist Access Media is there to help. But as much as they have bent the knee to Disney, Disney has bent the knee to them. They are the ones who constantly ask the questions of fictional characters' sexuality, constantly bring up the heteronormative storylines of the MCU and the white male problem they have, or the female problem they have. It is not the fans. The fans don't care about that crap. And although I fully believe that the Access Media has outlived their usefulness, the Disney and the franchises seem to keep listening to them to their peril. Also, I think Disney is starting to smell their own farts and think they smell great. They have been out there manipulating the truth. They have done it constantly since their creation, and they did it masterfully with Captain Marvel. Unfortunately, they had us YouTubers to call it out. But as we were calling it out, which was reported on by the Access Media, they are now calling us conspiracy theorists by managing editor Michael Doran. Spider-Man Far From Home blows up Captain Marvel conspiracy theories. Whoa. The first draft featured a more detailed catalog of theories, to be kind, that were bandied about the internet in March and April about Captain Marvel's box office reception and reporting about the film's relationship with movie review aggregate sites and the effect its public reception and regard for its star Brie Larson would have on the Marvel Cinematic Universe moving forward. These theories, again, just to be kind, and dialogue continued into May when Carol Danvers / Larson's role in Avengers Endgame was revealed to be relatively brief and limited only to the film's early and late minutes. Like you, I am fully expecting a comprehensive list of these theories because I would love to debunk every single one of them, but he decided to not go with this. I'm curious as to why. But a funny thing happened on the way to Captain Marvel being some sort of tipping / turning point to the domestic and worldwide regard for the MCU. That is to say, nothing happened. At least nothing that we can't regard as entirely positive. Well, I think it's way too early to state that right now because we are still within the time frame of Infinity War and Endgame. Talk to me in a couple years because I feel completely confident in saying when the MCU is not as relevant as it was before, we can pinpoint Captain Marvel as the turning point, as the time when the MCU got arrogant, that they thought they could start putting agenda into their films because they thought they could just shove anything in our face and people will love it. And of course, if you're going to use Spider-Man Far From Home as some kind of barometer for Captain Marvel, it's Spider-Man. It's one of the most popular characters on the entire planet, and it wasn't an agenda-filled political movie. If they would have made a Captain Marvel type of Spider-Man, I think you would have gotten a very negative response. But you just got a pretty average, decent movie. And of course it's going to be a giant hit because we are just a couple of months away from Endgame, and they called it the true end of Phase 3. It was part of the marketing. Now, when we get out of Phase 3 and get into Phase 4, that's when everyone's theories will be put to the test. So it seems silly to rehash those details now. Really? So you're bringing up conspiracy theories, but you don't want to put any details in your article. Curious. We're also going to resist the urge to call out those who dealt in it. I expected that. No one reading this needs to be reminded of both the critical embrace and the record-setting performance of Endgame, which may still have enough legs to catch Avatar. And now Spider-Man Far From Home is being embraced again by critics and the public all over the world, and early box office returns suggest Marvel and Sony, very important there, may have the first $1 billion Spider-Man movie on their hands. So what you're saying is the film that came out a couple months before Endgame Endgame itself, and the one that came out a couple months after Endgame, is a sure sign that the MCU is healthy from here on out, that its future is written in stone, that it will remain as successful as it is now. Things seem only trending up, which is a tough place to go when you're already on top of your industry. But it's actually none of these obvious things showing the MCU is still thriving that could be the takeaway about Marvel Studios' own regard and plans specifically for Captain Marvel moving forward. That came in the film's second and last credit scene, and if you'd seen it, you know it's a big MCU deal. As we previously detailed, Marvel Studios played a subtle trick on us in both tone and dialogue from the very first trailer to the film's final scene. They left a trail of breadcrumbs for us all about the true nature of Nick Fury and Maria Hill. So subtle, in fact, they could have left the second credits out of the movie entirely if they chose, and few moviegoers would be any the wiser. So subtle that the film could have been easily edited in post-production to pick up the breadcrumbs before any of us got to see them at all. Why is this important to know? Simple. It means Marvel Studios had ample time to change course in terms of how to move forward in the face of the public reception and perception of Captain Marvel, and didn't. It means they're moving full steam ahead. It means Marvel Studios doesn't have any second thoughts about establishing Carol, the Skrulls, Nick Fury's seeming new role as galactic-level Guardian as a significant part of the future of the MCU, perhaps the most prominent part of the future of the MCU. So the final credit scene of Spider-Man Far From Home blows away all of our conspiracy theories about Captain Marvel. And he doesn't give any of these conspiracy theories. So I will go ahead and do that. But first, I will say that Marvel didn't have enough time to make big changes and remove Brie Larson's Captain Marvel from Avengers Endgame. But they did it anyway, and it was really sloppy. There were scenes of her showing up on Vormir. Now, I know that they spun that this was some kind of test footage, but I'm not necessarily sure I believe that. There was also the Captain Marvel end credit scene that made absolutely no sense when we saw it in connection with Avengers Endgame. Again, reported on by the Access Media. Let's go over some other conspiracy theories that he didn't bring up, like Rotten Tomatoes changing their entire website for Brie Larson and Captain Marvel, as reported by the New York Times, like YouTube changing its algorithm for Brie Larson and Captain Marvel, as reported by Verge. And of course, there was the Access Media flexing while bending their knee to Disney to help protect Brie Larson, Captain Marvel, and a giant billion-dollar corporation, themselves being backed by giant multi-million and billion-dollar corporations to take on individuals. You have to ask yourself, why? Why are they defending, at very best, a mediocre movie? We all know that nobody believes what they say anymore. That is the big problem. We are their competition. So every chance they get, they try to bring up this Captain Marvel victory, like it was an actual victory for the Access Media, like they actually had something to do with the making of the film. Now, Disney is laughing their way all the way to the bank, but the problem that Marvel, Disney, and the Access Media has is, in time, people will wake up to this crap, and they already are. That's why they were trying to stomp it out from the very beginning. That is not a conspiracy theory. This is what was reported on by you, the Access Media. You are trying to silence us, the voices of the fandom, and we are just calling that out. We just want our films to be entertaining. We don't want them filled with intersectional feminism and divisive partisan politics. Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios had months to study the box office figures, months to analyze the social media data, months to absorb the literal cottage industry of critical YouTube videos of Captain Marvel that emerged, months to consider who they wanted to move forward with and how. And what did they do? They purposely, firmly, and surprisingly signaling to us all in a Spider-Man movie of all places that Carol Danvers / Brie Larson, Talos, the Skrulls, and the Kree, and the cosmic conflict that Captain Marvel introduced is a centerpiece of the MCU's future. In other words, Captain Marvel was a hit, plain and simple, and nothing has happened to give Marvel any pause or cause to reconsider what was plain to see. Although we're sure on some corners of the internet, the rabbit hole is just being dug deeper. I'm going to check back on this article to see how it ages, but yeah, go right ahead. Everything is just fine with the MCU. We're not even 3 months away from Avengers Endgame, the film that they have been building up to for 10 years, and any film placed around it was going to do well, but let's not even consider that within the article. Based on that logic, Alice in Wonderland should have a cinematic universe. It made $1 billion in 2010, but how did that sequel fare? It was a one-hit wonder. So was Captain Marvel. Well, I guess that's it. We're just a bunch of conspiracy theorists, but we're going to find out in a week if the most protected actress, Brie Larson, and the most protected character, Captain Marvel, will become the head of the MCU. And I think there's little doubt that that will happen, and I think there's little doubt that will lead to the MCU's destruction, just as it's done within Marvel Comics. Now, when I sold my shop in 2013, Marvel was on top of the world, but a few years later, a few Captain Marvel relaunches, and the creatives using the comic books as their own personal political platform, and the comic book industry is failing. It is in full apocalypse mode. We've lost hundreds of comic shops, and the same will happen to the MCU. When you alienate fans, they stop buying your stuff. Everybody, have a great day. I will see you at Comic-Con. I will be there every day, live streaming every day, and it looks like I'll be with Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers. So please stay tuned. Go to nerdrotic.com for my live stream schedule, and may the free folk sing songs of your greatness.
Nerdrotic.com. Please subscribe.